We're incredibly excited to be joined by Daniel Smienk from Altin Gün, and their new album is already out. It's called Yol. Altin Gün, an Amsterdam sextet, psychedelic funk interpretations of Turkish standards is where they live. They received a 2020 Grammy nomination in the world music category for their last record. So we're kind of expecting, Daniel, for you to hit that bar again.
That will be great, yeah.
Yeah.
We raised the bar last year.
Thanks for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me. That's amazing.
You know, the one of the reasons that I'm so glad to have you for a guest is because one of the things that so separates Turkish music from other genres, other cultures, is time signatures and rhythms.
Yeah,
and I want to talk about that. But before we get there, I'd like to just sort of set up sort of the ethos of the band and all of that. So really, this band is so interesting because it's, as I mentioned, sort of Turkish folk standards. Some of the originals are as simple as voice and the saz, which is like a Turkish lute. So very simple things, but you are adding, you know, all kinds of different elements to these: psychedelic music, funk music, synths, 80s, disco. It's kind of all over the road.
A mix, yeah.
So that's got to be sort of it's just a wild thing to do.
Yeah, we find it still exciting and strange at the same time, and it's new to all of us as well.
So some of these covers are songs that are over 100 years old, and then some of them came out of 60s and 70s Turkish music that played around with psychedelic music. And I have to admit that all of this is new to me. So I'm asking for your help as we go along. But the genre is Anatolian rock. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
And essentially it was a form of music that popped up in Turkey, largely as a result of bands like the Beatles and the Stones and Zeppelin.
Yeah, correct. Pink Floyd, for example, like a lot of Western 60s, 70s bands that were like big in the West, like came over the bridge in Istanbul, and there it was. It's how it all started.
You know, it's so funny. I get the sense that people in Turkey have always wanted some of their music to like break out to the larger world. And in a lot of respects, it just never really has. And now here is a band from Amsterdam.
Yeah,
that
of all
has
places.
adopted this music. Yeah. And so it's not really maybe the path that anybody in Turkey expected.
I don't think so, no. And I don't think any Dutch musician would have expected it as well. Or an American musician.
Yeah, your band really started as a band to just play this music for the fun of it. And actually it was just sort of thought of initially as a cover band, but it morphed really quickly into something more. And it's really doing a disservice to Altin Gün to think of you in any way, shape, or form as a cover band. And there's certainly some, you know, I think that the precedent would be the way the jazz community treats standards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Folk musicians look at it as a tradition of adding to a song and passing it on. Yeah,
it's funny that you say that, because like we hear a lot of times that we're sort of like seen as a cover band, or it's like more an easy way of telling what we're doing. But it's a pretty thin line, I think, for people that do that, like as in the jazz world, compared to pop musicians. Because like funny, because like only since the Beatles, people started really writing their own songs in Western music. So everybody before that was playing standards, but that sort of thing became quickly sort of in the background.
I think that maybe people wouldn't make that claim of you being a cover band as often if they would go back and listen to the original of like a folk musician singing along to us Oz, and listen to what you all have done with this psychedelic and funk underpinning.
Yeah. It's a funny crossover.
Yeah. So the name Altin Gün is Turkish as golden day. And I feel like that kind of sets the tone for one of the choices that the band has made to basically sort of avoid politics and just speak to the universal topics of love and loss, all the things that human beings
Yeah,
everywhere.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bring a good time and bring people together. That's the most beautiful thing there is.
So that brings us to the song that we've been playing a lot on the bridge, and this is one of those times when I may be asking for your help on pronunciation.
That's fine.
But Yuche Dag Bashinda,
Yeah,
close,
fine, perfect. Yeah,
close enough. Throw a
that'll
dart.
do it.
I at least got the dart on the board. Maybe not a full die.
Maybe triple 19.
Yeah. So this song has been referred to in some of the material that I've read as a naughty song. Are you aware of the song's like? Here's what's funny: you don't speak Turkish.
I don't, unfortunately not.
Yeah, but are you aware of the lyrics in this song and what they mean?
Yeah, like Erdinç and Merve explained to us what it's about, and like that helps us create music around the lyrics as well, because then it becomes more of a total thing. Because if you have like a song about love and really like soft, more nice poetic lyrics, and you start to play a punk beat over it, it could be a bit weird.
Yeah, so I guess that this one is about asking a lover to come back during the daytime when there will be fewer distractions.
Yeah, like it's like about an affair, sort of. It doesn't literally say that, but it's like meet me in the. I thought it said like something. Meet me in the nighttime when. Yeah, when no one's looking, something like that.
Our guest today on the bridge is Daniel Smienk of Altin Gün, the Amsterdam sextet that is reinventing Turkish music. You know, the band's origin story, in my mind, kind of starts with your bass player, Jasper, who grew up in a community that had a strong Turkish immigrant population. And when he was touring with another band in Turkey, he took, you know, kind of the things that he had sort of soaked up by osmosis and then had a field day in a record store. And what had turned into like a culture that he liked, it kind of turned into an obsession for him.
Yeah, you can basically call it an obsession. Yeah, like that's what I had too. Like when the first song I ever heard was Gurbet by Özdemir Erdogan, and that just blew me away. I was like, wow, that's, yeah, Turkish music has so much to it. It's, I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing.
So essentially, Jasper had people that he knew in the music community, but to make it authentic and to, you know, understand it better and to really, you know, just, I think he felt like he really needed some people that were actually Turkish.
100%. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what was that process?
Like he had the idea and he just put an ad on Facebook like, hey, and he also brought like pamphlets to the Turkish little greengrocers and everything and places like that. And then the first people to respond were Merve and Erdinç, both the singers now. And it clicked and they were so hyped and happy to do this thing.
So right now, the band, if I get this right, the band is a sextet. It has members from Netherlands, Indonesia, and Turkey. And so what is communication like in the band? For instance, what language do you use? And I ask this because I've seen, like, getting ready for this interview is interesting because so many of the interviews online are in foreign language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what language do you speak? How do you communicate?
Well, it's mostly Dutch and English. Like what you said, the Indonesian guy is, mom is half Indonesian, if I'm correct. So he's basically just Dutch. Erdinç, the guy's singer, is born here, but his parents are Turkish. And Merve came to the Netherlands 7 or 8 years ago, if I'm correct, maybe 10 already. And like she's picking up Dutch pretty well. So it's mainly Dutch and English. But if Mervin Erdinch wants to discuss something in secret, then they just speak Turkish openly because we can't understand it.
Is that a red flag? Like the warning signs
Yeah.
go up?
Yeah.
Oh, we're in
Something's
trouble
going on.
now.
Something's going wrong.
So the name of the album is Jol, and I hope I pronounced that reasonably correctly.
Perfect.
Translation is the road, the path, or the way.
Yeah.
Was there any intention behind that?
Kind of. Like we've been on the road in 2018 and 19 basically constantly. And yeah, like this whole album felt like a road as well, because we were all going down new paths of writing music, creating music. Like none of us no one is like a good producer on a computer or like synthesizer guru, or so yeah, it was a new path basically, and that defined that title a bit.
Our guest today on the bridge is Daniel Smienk from Altin Gün, and their new album Jol is out right now. And it's always tempting to try and describe the music, and we've done a little bit of that in the interview, but even hearing the one song that we've been playing on the bridge isn't adequate to define this band, because there are so many different colors and so many different flavors. So do yourself a favor and check this out. You really have created a project that, in my mind, kind of lives in a genre all by itself. There's nobody else occupying this space, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting things is that makes you a perfect fit for just about any kind of outdoor music festival, because you could do jazz, you could do pop, you could do rock, you could do folk, you could do dance festivals. All of that, however, sort of blew up because of COVID. It had to be so disappointing. You had gigs at Coachella and Bonnaroo.
Yep.
They got
it was a double strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't happen. But like, good thing is, like, I have to tell that myself because it's been quite a hard year, of course, but we wouldn't have made the album if COVID didn't happen. Like, we would have made a totally different album. So in a way, it's for a good cause. Like it brought something good, and that's important to keep in mind, I think.
Well, I've read that time really did benefit you, but I think that maybe one of the interesting things is how it benefited you. How did the process change? My understanding is that you didn't, like in the past, you had recorded to tape because it was like it was almost like an homage to some of the eras that you were pulling from, that because those things had been recorded on analog, but this time was digital.
Yeah, like we recorded on tape because the intention of Altin Gn was always to be a live band, and that's what we wanted to do as well with this third album. But then we were basically forced to do it digitally, and for the good.
Yeah. So there was also, my understanding is, like a real push to try and have fun doing it too.
Yeah, like it at the moment, especially as a drummer, it's a bit hard because you're literally just pushing buttons on your keyboard, and then this beat comes forward, and it was a bit difficult, but it's good to go through that process as well.
We've talked so much about the roots of the band, which are sort of layering in these psychedelic and funk sounds that reinvent these songs. But this time around, there's been a lot written about how much more synth there is. And do you feel like you're just moving forward in time?
Yeah, like it is a logic chronicle step, actually. Like you got the 60s, 70s, and then 70s, slightly more synthesizers come in, and then the first drum computers, and yeah, like it's sort of like that maybe 78 to 83 sort of era.
So of course it begs the question, what's next? What year are you going to land in?
90s new jack swing, what's it called? Yeah, I don't know. Like we really want to play like a live album again, and hopefully we can do that soon. But
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I mentioned in passing earlier the 3-stringed Turkish lute, and it does come in different forms, the saws. Sometimes some of the strings are doubled. It is it's capable of playing quarter tones, and it actually has frets that can move.
Correct.
So that actually means that, for instance, Ben, your guitar player, sometimes has to detune his guitar just to play along.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like that's a new way of approaching Western music for him. That's funny.
You know, I broached this right at the beginning of the interview, and I just sort of held it for the end because I think it's one of the most interesting parts of it. But the time signatures of Turkish music are so different from Western music. And my understanding is that a lot of times they change even within a song quite a bit. And as a drummer, you know, I was really interested in how challenging that was for you and how you approached it.
Yeah, it's a good question. It is really. Like I recently found this. It was a video, I can't remember where. It wasn't on YouTube. It was somewhere else. But they explained that, like in Eastern Europe and in Anatolia, like in the greater area, each region perceives, like for example, a 9/8 rhythm differently. So you can do the short, 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 long, short, long, short, short. Like they all have, every culture has their different perspective on it, and that to me was like sort of eye-opening, because then you can just, like, for example, King Gizzard does that really well as well, like the polyrhythmic between instruments, and how one bar of 9, or like if you play multiple bars, you come out on the same one with someone else again after you get put on the wrong feel, but then it comes all together again. So like it's a bit mathematical in your head, but like once you feel it, then it is there.
Well, I guess that really is one of the questions that was really sort of in my head from the beginning, is how much of this is you being a technician and how much of it is feel? And maybe does it start in one place and end in another?
Yeah, kind of. Like the first few times I had to play a 7/8 groove, I was like, how am I going to do this? How do I count this? But then like then you start playing and counting it, and then when you can let that go, and because like what I found then is like, if I can sing the bass line over it, then I can just follow that, and then the feel comes, and then you don't really count anymore. Sometimes now with those odd measurement songs, I don't even know how to count it anymore, because I only know how it feels.
Well, that's kind of great though, because
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So these songs are in many cases songs where the originals were much beloved in Turkey, and we've talked about the massive level of reinvention that you all bring to these songs. So what has the reaction been like in Turkey?
Great. Yeah, like 99%, it's all, everybody's like, so yeah, it's funny, like there's this foreign band, well, like the singers are Turkish, but like the idea came from a Dutchie that wanted to play this music live, and now Turkish music is being brought even to America, and even we played in Indonesia. Mexico is playing us on the radio. So it's like, how did it end up there? Like they're surprised as well. They wouldn't have thought that centuries ago.
Yeah. And, you know, the Netherlands have, you know, really strong Turkish immigrant community. There are a lot of people there. And I think one of the beautiful things that's happened as a result of your band is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you all have seen a mixture of people in the audience, you know, participating in life in a way that maybe isn't the norm.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. Like if in some places you just look in the crowd and you see like basically everybody from everywhere, all age groups. It's amazing. It's really good. I'm really happy that we can bring people together with that with music that a lot of people are not familiar with.
Well, congratulations on the record, because it's really a staggering achievement, and it just drips with creativity, and you all should be very, very proud. It feels like another step forward for the band.
Thank you so much. That's great to hear.
So our guest today, Daniel Smienk, Altin Gün, the new album is Y'all, and it's available right now. Thanks again so much, Daniel, for your time today here on The Bridge.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope we can come by one day.
Yeah, we really need to see you all live. That is absolutely the truth.
Yeah. Can't wait to go there again.
Yeah, thanks.